Nobody told you riding would feel like this. That first time you crack the throttle and the world compresses into a single, glorious, terrifying point, you understand immediately why riders are the way they are. We're not crazy. We're just addicted to the most honest feeling a human being can have on two wheels of rubber and steel. But here's the thing. Nobody warns you about before you throw a leg over your first bike. There's a list of stuff that experienced riders know that you don't, and learning it the hard way is going to cost you. Thing 1. Gear is not optional. It's your skin. Everyone thinks gear is just a fashion statement at first. You see the guys rolling around in shorts and a t-shirt looking like they're headed to a barbecue. And part of your brain goes, yeah, that seems fine. It's hot outside and I'm only going around the block. And then the other part of your brain, the part that has seen a road rash photo exactly one time, goes absolutely not under any circumstances are we doing that. Listen to the second part of your brain. That part is your friend. Here's what the asphalt does not care about. It does not care that you're a careful rider. It does not care that you're only going 30 miles per hour. It does not care that you've never crashed before and you're pretty sure you won't. The road is not your friend. The road is a completely indifferent surface that will remove your skin with the efficiency of an industrial sander if you give it half a chance. And gravity, that old reliable jerk, is always on the road's side. Let's look at what we're actually talking about here. The NHTSA has done extensive research on motorcycle fatalities and injury patterns. And the findings are about as subtle as a freight train. Riders who are not wearing helmets are 40 times more likely to suffer a fatal head injury than riders who are. 40 times. That's not a rounding error. That's not a statistical quirk. That is the difference between walking away from a crash and not walking anywhere ever again. And it's not just helmets. Your hands go down first in almost every single crash scenario. It is a biological reflex you cannot override, no matter how experienced you are. Your hands shoot out and meet the ground, and if you're not wearing gloves, you are going to lose the skin off your palms in a way that takes months to heal and makes doing literally anything, including holding a fork, an exercise in misery. A decent pair of gloves costs maybe $60. Skin grafts cost considerably more. I have done the math on this, so you don't have to. The full kit is what serious riders call it. Helmet, jacket with armor, gloves, pants with knee and hip protection, and boots that cover your ankle. Every time. Not just for long rides, not just for highway riding. Every single time you throw a leg over that bike. I know it's hot. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you feel slightly ridiculous suiting up just to go get coffee. You know what's more uncomfortable than wearing gear in August? Explaining to a doctor why your elbow looks like a pizza because you thought the gear was overkill for a short ride. Gear up. Every ride. No exceptions. That's the whole lesson. Thing 2. The MSF course is not just for beginners. Most new riders treat the MSF course like a hoop. You jump through it, you get your license endorsement, and then you never think about it again because you're a real rider now and real riders don't need a parking lot course. Wrong. Genuinely, embarrassingly, categorically wrong, and I say that as someone who absolutely thought this exact thing. The Motorcycle Safety Foundation's basic rider course is the single best thing you can do when you are starting out. But here's the thing that experienced riders figured out and new riders almost never believe until it's too late. The advanced courses are where the real gold is buried. The MSF offers an advanced rider course and a street rider course that are designed for people who already know how to ride and want to stop riding like they don't. The difference in skill level before and after one of these courses is not subtle. Here is what happens to most new riders. They complete the basic course, they get comfortable on their bike over the course of a few months, and they think that comfort equals competence. And that is one of the most dangerous places a rider can be, because comfortable and competent are not the same thing. Comfortable means you've stopped dropping the bike in parking lots. Competent means you can actually handle the bike at the limits of what a real-world emergency is going to demand from you. Think about emergency braking for a second. Do you know off the top of your head how to execute a maximum braking stop without locking the rear wheel and throwing yourself over the bars? Not theoretically, not because you read about it, but because you have actually done it repeatedly in a controlled environment until your muscle memory can do it without your brain's involvement, because that is the skill set that saves your life when some genius in a crossover decides to turn left directly into your lane without looking. Your brain is not going to have time to have a conversation with your hands. Your hands need to already know what to do. The MSF course teaches you that. The advanced courses refine it. And a half day in a parking lot learning emergency stops and slow speed maneuvering is worth more than 1,000 miles of casual riding on roads you already know. Go take the course again. Go take it every couple of years. The riders who think they're too experienced for a refresher course are almost always the ones with the most to learn. Thing 3. Your eyes go where the bike goes. This one sounds almost too simple to be worth mentioning. And then you watch a new rider overshoot a corner for the first time, and you understand immediately why it absolutely is worth mentioning. Where your eyes go, the bike goes. This is not a metaphor. This is not a philosophical concept about focus and intention. This is physics, and it is ruthlessly literal. Target fixation is the phenomenon that has ended more rides than mechanical failure, bad weather, and poor judgment combined. It is what happens when your brain locks onto something in the road, a pothole, a guardrail, a car stopped in your lane, and instead of looking away from it and steering away from it, you stare directly at it and ride directly into it. Your brain sends the message to steer toward your gaze, and your body obeys, and suddenly you are very personally acquainted with the thing you were trying to avoid. The fix is so simple that it sounds like I'm joking when I say it. Look where you want to go, not where you're afraid of going. In a corner, that means your eyes should already be tracking through the exit of the turn before your bike has even hit the apex. You are always looking ahead of where you are. You are always scanning for the next thing. Your eyes lead the bike and the bike follows. That is the whole system. This is also why new riders get into trouble in decreasing radius corners, which are the corners that tighten up as you go through them. You think you've got the corner figured out, and then it keeps bending and your brain panics, and you look at the outside of the lane and your body runs the bike right toward the outside of the lane. The correct response is to press the handlebar in the direction of the turn, look through the corner aggressively, and trust the bike. Modern motorcycle tires have an absolutely absurd amount of grip available that the vast majority of street riders will never even come close to using. The bike can make the corner. You just have to point your eyes in the right direction and let it. Practice this actively. Every corner, remind yourself to look through it. Every time you spot a hazard in the road, make yourself look at the escape route instead of at the hazard. It feels unnatural for a while, and then one day it becomes completely automatic, and you will wonder how you ever rode any other way. Thing 4. Throttle control is the whole game. I have never met a new rider who thought throttle control was interesting, and I have never met an experienced rider who thought anything else was more important. That gap in perspective is responsible for a remarkable number of crashes and a genuinely puzzling amount of embarrassment in parking lots. Throttle control is everything. And I mean that in the most literal possible sense. Here is what your throttle actually controls. Obviously, it controls your speed. But it also controls your suspension geometry in real time. When you roll on the throttle, weight transfers to the rear of the bike and the front end rises slightly. When you chop the throttle abruptly, weight dumps to the front forks compress, and your rear end gets light. Do that mid-corner, and the rear tire has just been asked to handle a sudden load transfer it was not expecting, and the result is a low side that happens faster than your brain can process what went wrong. The twist of the wrist, which if you have not watched, you need to watch approximately immediately, lays all of this out with a clarity that is genuinely life-changing for a new rider. The core principle is this: your throttle input should be smooth, deliberate, and consistent. You roll on, you roll off. You do not chop, you do not snap, you do not blip the throttle randomly because you're bored. Every input you make through that right hand has consequences that cascade through the entire machine. The reason this matters more on a motorcycle than in a car is proportion. A Toyota Camry weighs about 3,600 pounds. You weigh, let's be generous, 180. You are approximately 5% of the car's total weight, and your inputs matter proportionally. On a 600-pound motorcycle, you are 30% of the total weight, and every single thing your body does has an outsized effect on what that machine does. Smooth throttle control is what separates riders who feel like they are wrestling their bike from riders who feel like the bike is an extension of their body. Start developing this habit now, not when you're faster, not when you get a better bike, right now. Light grip on the bars. Roll the throttle like you're trying not to wake someone up in the next room. Keep it open through the middle of a corner. Open it up gently as you stand the bike up on the exit. Do this 1,000 times and then do it 1,000 more times, and eventually it becomes the most natural thing in the world. Thing 5. The middle of the lane. Will kill you new riders almost universally gravitate to the center of the lane. It feels safe, it feels central, it feels like you have equal amounts of buffer on both sides, and you're splitting the difference perfectly like some kind of responsible, law-abiding adult who definitely has everything under control. And it is, without question, one of the worst places you can habitually plant yourself on a public road. I know that sounds dramatic. I promise you it isn't. Here's the thing nobody thinks about until somebody explains it to them. Every single car that has ever driven that lane ahead of you has been leaking something. Oil, coolant, power steering fluid, transmission fluid, that unidentified mystery substance that older cars weep from places mechanics point at and go, yeah, that's not great, while your wallet quietly starts crying in the corner. All of it drips down from the engine, which sits roughly over the center of the lane, and accumulates in a strip of slick, invisible contamination running right down the middle of your lane like a greasy little welcome mat. A car's 4 wide tires straddle that strip comfortably on either side without ever touching it. Your 2 narrow tires do not have that luxury. Your 2 narrow tires are going to find every single drop of that stuff and report back to you about it in the most immediate and personal way possible. Now picture a wet road. Picture that same center strip, now activated by rain, pulling every molecule of oil and grime up to the surface in a layer so slick it might as well be ice. That first 30 minutes of rain on a road that hasn't been washed in a while is genuinely one of the more treacherous surfaces a motorcycle tire can encounter. And it is concentrated almost entirely in the center of the lane where you are currently hanging out, thinking you're being safe. You are not being safe. You are parking yourself directly on top of a problem. Experienced riders position in either the left third or the right third of a lane depending on what the situation calls for. In most normal riding scenarios, especially on a 2-lane road, the left third is the preferred position. It gives you a better sight line on oncoming traffic. It puts you where drivers coming from the opposite direction are most likely to actually register that you exist, and it keeps your tires on the part of the lane that gets scrubbed clean by car tires instead of ignored by them. When you approach an intersection or a situation where threats might be coming from a specific direction, you read it and adjust accordingly. This is not complicated. It just requires you to actually think about it instead of defaulting to the middle, because the middle feels intuitive. Lane positioning is also one of your primary tools for managing visibility, and visibility is the game within the game of riding a motorcycle on public roads. You are small. Your bike is small. Drivers are not looking for you because their brains have been trained by a lifetime of driving to look for things the size of cars. Positioning yourself intelligently is how you stack the odds in your favor. It is how you maximize the probability that somebody actually sees you before they do something catastrophically stupid directly into your path. The correction here is simple, even if it takes time to become automatic. Every time you enter a lane, ask yourself one question. Where is the best position right now for visibility and traction? Answer it. Move there. Ask it again at the next intersection, the next corner, the next situation. After enough repetitions, it stops being a conscious decision and starts being the only way you know how to ride. And you will never look at the center of a lane the same way again. Thing 6. New riders, low side in the fun stuff. Here's the one that nobody wants to hear and everyone needs to. The most dangerous place for a new rider is not the highway. It is not the busy intersection. It is not the sketchy neighborhood at night. It is the twisty road that you found on Google Maps that looks absolutely incredible and that you have been looking forward to riding all week. The fun road is where new riders get hurt. The reason is so straightforward that it almost feels insulting to explain. New riders don't have the skill set to match their enthusiasm. You get on a beautiful canyon road or a sweeping mountain pass, and everything in your brain lights up with excitement. And you start going faster because faster is more fun, and the corners are gorgeous, and you're feeling it. And then a corner tightens up, or there's gravel across the exit, or you run wide, and suddenly you are way beyond the limits of what your skill level can actually handle. David Hoof's Hurt Report from 1981, which remains one of the most comprehensive studies of motorcycle accidents ever conducted, found that rider error was the precipitating factor in approximately 2/3 of single-vehicle motorcycle accidents. Not road conditions, not mechanical failure. Rider error. And the type of rider error that shows up most often in those accidents is exactly this. A rider who entered a corner faster than their skill level allowed them to navigate. Here's the thing that experienced riders know, and new riders have to learn the hard way if nobody tells them. The correct way to ride a twisty road is not to ride it as fast as you can. The correct way is to ride it at a pace where every single corner feels comfortable, where you always have room to tighten your line if the corner decreases, and where you are never surprised by what the road is doing. You build pace gradually. You learn the road. You use the slow and fast out principle, where you enter conservatively and accelerate through the exit when you can see it's clear. The irony of this is that riding this way actually feels faster because the bike is moving smoothly and predictably, and you are not white-knuckling through every corner praying it goes in the direction you want. Smooth is fast. It is not just a bumper sticker, it is the actual truth of riding a motorcycle at pace. The fun stuff will still be fun when you slow down enough to actually ride it well. I promise. Thing 7. Your first bike will get dropped. Accept this now and let it liberate you. Your first bike is going to get dropped. Not maybe, not possibly. It is going to happen, and the only variables are when, how fast you're going, when it happens, and whether you have enough emotional distance from the machine to deal with it without having a complete breakdown in a parking lot. I say parking lot specifically because statistically, that is the most likely place it is going to happen, and that is actually the best case scenario. New riders drop bikes for a million reasons. You forget to put the kickstand down, and you lean the bike over, and suddenly the bike is on the ground, and you're standing next to it wondering what just happened. You stall it at a low speed, and your foot doesn't get down fast enough. You're doing a slow speed turn, and the bike goes over before you can catch it. You park it on soft asphalt in summer heat, and the kickstand sinks, and the bike tips. All of these things happen to new riders. Most of them have happened to experienced riders too, though we tend not to advertise it. Here is what the drop is going to do. It's going to scratch your bike, it might break a mirror or a lever or a fairing panel, and it is going to hurt your feelings considerably more than it hurts the bike. That last part is the one that catches new riders completely off guard. The emotional response to dropping your bike for the first time is disproportionate to the actual damage in almost every case. You feel stupid and embarrassed and like you've ruined this beautiful machine and like maybe you're not cut out for this whole riding thing after all. You are cut out for it. The drop is a rite of passage and not a character assessment. Every single rider you admire, every experienced person whose riding you watch and think you want to ride like that someday, has dropped a bike. Probably multiple bikes. Probably in embarrassing circumstances. The guy who's been riding for 20 years and looks completely at home on anything he throws a leg over. He dropped his first bike in a gas station in front of a crowd of people and then had to pick it up while everyone watched. We've all been there. What you can do is set yourself up for the inevitable. Buy a used bike for your first machine. Not because you don't deserve something new and nice, but because a used bike that already has a few scratches is a bike you can learn on without the psychological weight of protecting a pristine machine. Get a bike with engine guards if it's a style of bike that supports them, except that some cosmetic damage is the tuition cost of becoming a good rider. The drop is not the end of your riding career, it is the beginning of it. So there it is. 7 things every new rider wishes someone had sat them down and explained before they found out on their own. Gear up every single time, without exception. Go back to the MSF and take it seriously. Look through every corner like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. Treat your throttle like a precision instrument and not a light switch. Get out of the center of the lane and stay out of it. Respect the fun roads more than any other road you ride. And when you drop your first bike, pick it up, dust it off, and keep going. The riders who stick with it are not the ones who never made mistakes. They're the ones who made the mistakes and got back on anyway.